This story is from the Wicked Grand Haven Township Historic Cemetery Tour. It's about Albert Fridrich and Lena Hoecker. They both found themselves in some trouble when they were younger, but ended up meeting later and falling in love. In July 1890, Albert Fridrich was the owner of a bar and suspected disorderly house in Chicago. The mayor, having heard about the place's reputation, asked a police officer who walked that beat about the place's character and was told it was perfectly fine by the officer. Still suspicious, the mayor sent his own men to investigate the bar, and it was learned disreputable women were frequenting the joint. The liquor license was pulled, and Fridrich took the case to court immediately, agreeing to keep the women out of his bar if his liquor license was reinstated. Fridrich owned multiple bars around Chicago during his lifetime and managed to land himself in the news repeatedly. By 1900, Fridrich's basement resort was making headlines after the Chicago dives were being investigated. It was believed many city officials had stock in Fridrich's notorious houses, which kept him well protected. In 1901, Fridrich was on trial for keeping a disorderly house, but the defense argued that he kept a high-class resort for ladies and gents. Newspaper reporters were called to testify about the reputation of the place, along with known thieves and fallen women. The majority of policemen who testified claimed the place had a great reputation. One officer even went as far as to say he only saw about one woman enter the place every 3 days or so. The police were reluctant to rat on Fridrich, probably because they had been paid to keep quiet. Reporters, however, were quick to tell of women seen smoking cigarettes and acting in a lewd manner. The fallen women who testified readily admitted they had been to the place to solicit for men. One detective admitted he was instructed by his superior officers not to arrest women soliciting in private places. He stated that at times he had seen 30 to 40 women in the joint. The jury found Fridrich guilty in 2 minutes. His lawyer wanted to continue the fight, but Fridrich was done and admitted that he knew the character of the women who came into his bar. He pulled cash from his pocket and asked the judge what he owed. He promptly paid $100 in fines. That's about $2,600 today. Chicago wanted their dive bars cleared, so the places were sold. Fridrich decided to get out of the game while he was ahead and retired from Chicago with a fortune. This next story is about Lena Hoecker. Lena Hoecker is pulled into a gruesome murder trial in Chicago. On December 16, 1898, 38-year-old Michael Rollinger was arrested for strangling and burning his wife, Teresa. Police learned Lena was Michael's mistress, and a warrant was issued for her arrest. At the time the warrant was issued, Lena had been in Olive Township, where she was seeing to her dying father. A few days later, on December 21, Lena returned to Chicago and was immediately arrested and jailed for questioning. Lena had met Rollinger 2 years prior and worked at a restaurant he owned. She claimed she had no idea he was married until his wife showed up to the restaurant one day and caused an argument. Rollinger admitted to Lena he was in a bad marriage and wanted out. Other reports say it was Rollinger who was the bad guy in his marriage and that he had beat and threatened his wife. Lena's story led police to believe she didn't have anything to do with the murder. Between her testimony and Rollinger's 11-year-old son, Rollinger was sentenced to hang on November 17, 1899. In March 1900, just a few months after Rollinger's hanging, Lena quietly married Albert Fridrich, who was 22 years older than her. Lena's sister had been a domestic servant at his house, and that's how Lena had met her husband. Most likely ready to start over somewhere else after Fridrich's trial in 1901, the couple bought land along Pigeon Creek in Port Sheldon and opened Fridrich's Point Resort, a 21-room hotel with small cottages. The resort ran for 17 years and closed in 1918. Albert Fridrich killed himself by drowning on April 6, 1915, in Waukegan, Illinois. Lena was extremely suspicious about his death, suggesting he had been murdered for an expensive watch he was wearing. Albert had been diagnosed with stomach cancer and was not able to eat much without getting sick, so many assumed it was suicide, but Lena had always thought otherwise. Lena married John Habel in 1916. She died July 19, 1921 in Waukegan, Illinois, from complications from the Spanish flu. Both Albert and Lena were buried in Grand Haven Township Historic Cemetery. Lena and Albert's house still stands today and is now the Weaver House, located in Pine Bend Park. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. For more information, contact Loudoun District Library at loudounlibrary.org.